As with many unsung hero starship designs of any organization, the Galatea Class and its role for the United Federation of Planets is often forgotten, simply because it was a starship class whose role was to support the infrastructure of the Federation. But what do we know about this often overlooked starship design? Well, today we'll find out. Hello and welcome to another episode of Truth or Myth Beta Canon, a Star Trek web series that dives into the history of any given topic using Beta Canon sources and my own imagination to fill in the gaps. In today's episode, we're taking a look at the Galatea class to better understand its place in Star Trek history. Please note, as I've often said before, I get a ton of requests for unusual and interesting starship designs. And as my kit bashing skills improve, I've been able to bring some of those designs to life, and such is the case with this 3D model that I kit bashed into existence based on several Beta Canon designs, including those of Star Trek Bridge Commander mods that I've seen over the years. It's not perfect, but I think it'll get the job done. But, as always, because this is just a Beta Canon video, all information relayed should pretty much be taken with a grain of stardust and only considered a little bit of Star Trek fun. And so, with all that out of the way, let's begin. As much as the United Federation of Planets and Starfleet Command ran on the cooperation and goodwill of its member races, the physical truth was that both organizations actually ran on matter and antimatter. Starships, starbases, outposts, colonies, as well as other facilities and even some planets, all required this fuel supply simply to function. Early on, Starfleet Command had set up several deuterium mining outposts in the core of the Federation. Deuterium, of course, being the matter fuel source of the two-part equation. Antimatter, on the other hand, was a bit harder to come by. Natural sources of antimatter within the Milky Way were rare, relatively speaking. Cosmic rays, supernova explosions, and black holes, for examples, were sources of that rare material. But, of course, all were extremely difficult to mine. And thus, synthesizing facilities to create antimatter would begin to pop up throughout Federation space to quell the growing need for this rare commodity. By the late 23rd century, antimatter production for the Federation had been reduced to a mundane art, and, although time-consuming, had become relatively easy with the Federation's resources at hand. Specially designed cargo haulers would collect the antimatter and deliver it to facilities which required it. And just like how starship designs all throughout the space age had advanced, so too did Starfleet's cargo hauler designs. And after the technological explosion of the early 2270s, the Galatea Class would be born. Sitting at a length of 355 meters, the Galatea Class was designed to be operated by 162 officers and crew members, with additional space for up to 180 antimatter pod specialists. These antimatter pod specialists would be assigned in groups of 30 for each active antimatter storage pod, filled during the cargo vessel's hauling run. In charge of a given pod, these specialists would ensure that all antimatter pods retained containment, and would deal with any potential issue that could crop up during the starship's voyage. Containing a warp reactor similar to that of the Constitution-class refit, as well as a dual nacelle design, the Galatea class would be much slower than standard Starfleet starships of the era. Due to the larger warp field required to propel the vessel, the Galatea class would have a standard safe cruising speed of only warp factor 4, with an emergency maximum speed of warp factor 6.1 for 16-hour increments, all old warp scale of course. Tactically, the Galatea class would actually be well armed for a hauler-type starship design, containing both dual emitter phaser banks, as well as 2 forward and 1 aft torpedo launching system. given the need for antimatter throughout the Federation, as well as the quick expansion of the Federation requiring starships of this type to head out into the final frontier to fuel new starbases and colonies, one can quickly understand why the Galatea class was so well armed. Though shielding for the class was also based on the Constitution class refit design, it should be noted that the Galatea class's shields were about 25% weaker than those of her impressive Constitution class refit sister, again due to the size and shape of this starship design. 6 individual antimatter storage pods would be connected to the class. Each pod was reinforced and magnetized with its own emergency power systems to ensure antimatter containment. In the event of catastrophic failure, each pod could be individually ejected, where emergency thruster packs would accelerate said pod away from the starship, ensuring the vessel's safety. In case of a catastrophic pod failure where the ejection system was also offline or non-functional due to damage, the saucer section of the Galatea class could detach from the spine of the ship itself, and using emergency overcharged aft thruster ports, could propel the primary hull to safety. Several emergency transporters would also be located near the storage pods themselves. Connected directly to the transporter rooms within the saucer section, this would allow the antimatter pod specialists to remain in the secondary hull, attempting to fix the containment problem, and, if not successful, could transport to safety in the saucer section at the last minute. However, if containment in the pods was re-established, the saucer section could not easily reattach to its secondary hull, requiring a starbase or starship's assistance to do so. A single shuttle bay would be located in the aft section of the secondary hull, and would be equipped with the latest auxiliary spacecraft that Starfleet Command had to offer, as well as several mission-specific craft designed to repair and maintain the antimatter storage pods. The Galatea class would serve the Federation well, lasting until 2321, when the decision would finally be made to decommission the class in favor of newer, faster, and larger antimatter storage hauler designs. And in 2329, the last vessel of the Galatea class would make her final antimatter run to the Canopus colony, and then make her way to Beta 6 for decommissioning. Created to keep the Federation's lights on, as it were, the Galatea class, like so many other infrastructure-style starship designs, is often forgotten by the galaxy at large. But without starship classes such as this one, the Federation and Starfleet would simply not exist, earning this class its important and necessary place in Starfleet and Federation history. Thank you for watching today's episode of Truth or Myth Beta Canon. What do you think of the Galatea class and the historical narrative that I've created here? Do you want to see more videos like this one? Well, leave your comments in the section below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, hitting that little bell icon so you won't miss a single video we release. Want to help the channel create starship designs just to keep the Federation and Starfleet running? Then consider becoming a channel member subscriber or a channel patron, both a major help that allows this channel to purchase resources and 3D models to keep it going. The link to both memberships is in the description below. Thanks again for watching, live long, and prosper.